Sonam, welcome. Well, we cannot be shooting a series on the business of fashion and everybody that's helped influence Indian fashion without a special appearance from Sonam Kapoor Ahuja. And that's exactly what we have in store for you today. Sonam, thank you so very much for taking time out for us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So, given that this is sort of about fashion and also jewelry, I do want to ask you, do you think that jewelry often tends to be overlooked when people tend to style a look?
I don't think that's absolutely true because, as Indians, especially in India, we give jewelry a lot of importance. It's something like, once I got married, everybody was like, why aren't you wearing jewelry? It's like so important for a married woman to wear jewelry, and it's not something that I completely like. It's a very old-fashioned notion and not something that I completely understand. But I like the idea of women wearing jewelry. I like the whole idea of like the sola shringar and adorning ourselves. And so I think for Indian women, jewelry comes first and then the outfit, at least for me as an Indian woman.
But you know what, I'm sure even you've noticed how jewelry and how we perceive it has changed from one generation to another. How your grandparents would have viewed jewelry versus how your mother would have seen it, and now you. It is more an object of desire for a lot of people from our generation versus a store of value for people in the past generation. So do you think that sort of rings a bell with you as well? What are your views on that?
I think what at least my generation thinks of jewelry is a bit of both. Value of the jewelry is very important. That's why brands like Zoya are thriving. So, and the reason, Zoya works so well is because of this combination. So design and the right value is very important, especially when it comes to high value items, right? Jewelry is always something that is, that doesn't lose value, it always gains value. So it's always easier for me as a working woman who earns money to invest in a jewelry piece. Besides it, appealing to my vanity, it also appeals to my, sensibility. Like I want to be sensible while buying jewelry as well because it's expensive. Especially real jewelry. I'm not talking about like fashion jewelry. I'm talking about real, beautiful jewelry. Yeah, fashion jewelry you buy because it's beautiful, but real jewelry you buy because it has to be both.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So, tell us, give us a little bit of a styling tip. You've put together, somehow you've managed to put together an absolutely statement outfit, and yet you've managed to pair it with a statement piece of jewelry as well. And that's often something that can be tricky to pull off. So give us a styling tip on how to sort of balance both.
Well, I think nothing should stand out except for the woman. And jewelry and your outfit should look like it's a part of you. I shouldn't be looking like I'm wearing an outfit or I'm wearing a piece of jewelry. It should look natural. So when you have the combination, you wear something with confidence and panache, it looks beautiful. And if you have a beautiful piece of jewelry and a beautiful outfit, it can always look beautiful together.
Okay, so given that your mother is a jeweler as well, you've pretty much grown about around pieces of beautiful jewelry. Give us any advice that you might have received from her, or something you tend to keep in mind from her maybe when you're picking up something for yourself.
So since my mom's a jeweler, there are a couple of things she's always told me is to buy jewelry from someone who is got a good reputation, who is well known to you. So someone like Zoya, because it comes from such an iconic brand, they're the most dependable, it's a Tata product, so you can't really go wrong. You know that the metal is going to be pure, the stone is going to be of the best quality, and then obviously design is something that matters a lot, and something that will hold value or gain value with time. But design is also of the paramount, because you have to wear the jewelry, right? You can't just buy jewelry because of the value of it. It also has to be beautiful because you're not buying it to put it in the safe. So that combination is very, very important and something that I can pass down.
Okay, on that note, any piece of jewelry you own that you would want to pass on to your son?
To my son?
Yeah.
Honestly, right now I'm not thinking about it because he's 2 years old. If I have a daughter, maybe, or if I have a daughter-in-law, maybe, but for my son, maybe my solitaire earrings. He wants to get his ear pierced, and then he wants to wear earrings, maybe. I've seen my dad wear like these solitaire earrings. I've seen Ranveer Singh, they all wear these like big diamond earrings. It's kind of like cool, I guess. Yeah.
You find it cool. Okay. All right. Now, you'd also spoken about how something you'd watch out for is the quality of jewelry you buy. Do you think there's need for more awareness? Do you, for instance, also care about, say, certification when you pick up a piece of jewelry?
Yes.
Because that's often, sometimes we do see consumers not being aware enough.
No, it's very important. It's extremely important because, there are too many people around that are not doing the right thing, but there are a lot of people around who are doing the right thing as well. But at the same time, you need to have the certificates. You need to make sure, sometimes even a brand name is enough.
Okay, so a couple of last questions. So given that the Indian jewelry landscape is so unique, right? Some of the pieces we've seen coming out of Indian history in terms of jewelry continue to remain absolutely unparalleled. Tell us one thing about shopping for jewelry in India that particularly appeals to you, and maybe one thing that does not.
Shopping for jewelry in India, I think the best jewelry comes from India. 90% of the stones or a little more are all cut in India and sourced also from India. So a lot of the jewelry from the biggest brands in the world is made in India. I'm quite proud of our Indian craftsmanship and quite proud of the heritage that we have and the design prowess that we have in our country, especially when it comes to jewelry, embroidery, clothes. So yeah, I don't think there's anything negative. The only thing negative is, sometimes when you're buying jewelry, you might not be so sure about the quality.
So this one's a tricky one. What would you choose, jewelry or clothing?
I would always choose jewelry.
No way, why?
I'll give you an example. For my wedding, I chose my jewelry first before I figured out my outfits.
Okay.
Because it's easier. Clothes are not as expensive as jewelry. So once you love the jewelry you like, you can actually design clothes around the jewelry.
Is that something you tend to do?
I tend to do that, yeah. Sometimes. Most of the times for important things.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for having me.
Now for this segment of Runway, I'm actually in conversation with Revathi Kant, the Chief Design Officer at Titan. Revathi, thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
So, I'll actually start off with a question that I'd posed to Sonam as well. How our generation or how this generation views jewelry appears to be fairly different from how our grandparents would have thought about it, or maybe how even our parents would have thought about it. So, is that something that weighs heavily when you design? And how do you think tastes and preferences have actually changed over the years?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. There is a distinct change which we see, over decades, and every generation, and even what our parents use, how they used to view jewelry versus how we see jewelry has undergone a lot of change. The first and the most important thing is jewelry has come out of the lockers. People nowadays do not buy jewelry to put it in the locker. It is for adornment. They buy distinguished jewelry, something very differentiated, something which is very, very unique to make a statement about their own personality. Hence, the whole definition of what you create has also changed a lot, because you create after understanding what she is seeking. It is not just value. It is not just gold or diamond in it, but it is the aesthetic combination of all of that coming together is what makes it different, because it's no longer just an investment. Of course, the investment angle remains because it's all precious, but the expression of her own personality, expression of self, is a very important role jewelry is playing today. So this makes a very, very fundamental shift. And hence, in Zoya, we talk of creating, wearable pieces of art. That's how we describe our jewelry. Because our jewelry is for wearing, for enjoying, for flaunting, for storytelling. And that's the reason we create such beautiful, distinguished jewelry in Zoya. And this has really been a big, big change, and it will continue to happen. The current generation is focusing on today and now. They're not looking at future and investment and that much through jewelry. So they are into it for thorough enjoyment.
Okay, all right. So, I'll take up on what you said that, jewelry has now come out of lockers and, like you said, you're targeting at designing pieces that are wearable as well as pieces of art. Typically, we've seen Indian jewelry tends to be slightly heavier, whereas Western designs tend to be a little more simplistic. Given recent trends, then how does one sort of strike a balance? Are we sort of are we veering a little more towards a slightly more Western aesthetic?
Okay, see, as we said, the generations are evolving. The wearers and the users are evolving. They are influenced by trends. We see international brands very easily being available here. The kind of dresses, the fashion, the whole entire fashion space has undergone so much change. And jewelry has, of course, had an impact. So earlier, if you were talking about, and earlier the first reason, it was heavy because it was for investment. Today, it is lighter because it is for adornment. I want to be wearing this earring and be comfortable the whole day. I don't want my, ears to be paining or, any of those things. So comfort, ease, lightweightedness, beauty, all of those things have become very, very important. And, see, in India, we are such a diverse country and diverse needs for jewelry. So we will have heavy jewelry which is worn on occasions like a wedding, which is pretty elaborate and, heavy and all of that. That will remain. But then we have the other segment, which is for everyday wear, for brunch, for parties, for evening. That is another space. Then we have, working women wearing jewelry, which is, possibly understated. It is about its own beauty and all of that. It's a different kind of a space. So we have jewelry for every segment in India, and jewelry is definitely getting lightweight, light one for the comfort. The other is also for the metal itself is getting so expensive. So the whole idea of bringing innovation to make the manufacturing of the jewelry piece, to make it very wearable, make it light, is really important. So if you're going to talk about, look at Zoya and what we have launched in this collection called Alive from Zoya, is a combination of, beautiful color stones, which are so special, along with, diamonds and all of it, and made it very wearable. There are certain pieces you can just flaunt it so easily. So it is so effortless and it is so beautiful.
You spoke about how the latest collection actually uses a lot of colored stones. I'm curious to know, is that something we're beginning to see only now, in more recent years in Indian jewelry? We've, of course, had maybe emeralds or rubies around for a while. We've seen Indian kings and queens wear those extensively. But otherwise, we've seen more of gold and jadao and polki, and now do you think people are more willing to experiment, and is that why you were talking about how the latest collection uses a lot of colored gemstones as well?
Absolutely. See, colored gemstone add its own sense of beauty, and it's been there. It's not like a trend, which is not a very recent trend.
Okay.
Gemstones, along with diamonds and along with precious material, continues to exist. As you said, it used to be emeralds and preciousness. I mean, they have gone together for a very long time now. But now we are coming up with more experimentative colors. Expect the unexpected kind of a thing is what we have in this Alive collection, where we have paired, for example, a quartz with, a blue Swiss topaz with severids and amethyst. And, you typically do not expect this kind of a combination, but the net result is so beautiful. Why? Because people are again wearing it for, either contrasting or matching with what they are wearing. So the whole sense of fashion and beauty has seeped into this category, though jewelry cannot be categorized in the space of fashion, but it is certainly influenced by it. So color stones make a big comeback and they add a lot of value to jewelry. So when you are creating a jewelry, interspersing color stones with precious like diamonds and other things, it also gives you a reasonable amount of spread and a certain look. At the same time, not making it very, very expensive. What we have tried in Zoya is Alive collection is something very special. We have done a very special cut called the bloom cut, special cut of the gemstone, the colored gemstone, and that is interspersed with the diamonds and other things. And that stone itself has taken us, creating that masterpiece. That cut has taken us about over a year of hard work to achieve it. So color stones are very special, especially in the portfolio of Zoya. If you have observed Zoya brand for a while, special cut color stone is really the signature element of Zoya. And we have been experimenting with it for a while and have been very successful with it. And this Alive collection is one more example of the same. Our patrons just love it.
So give us a little bit of a quick crash course. As a consumer, what must you be aware of, going beyond possibly the cut color clarity that we often talk about in case of diamonds specifically? What is it that you should know as a consumer when you're picking up a piece of jewelry? What should you be asking your jeweler? What should you be asking them in terms of maybe certifications or authenticity? Tell us a little bit about all of that.
Right. So I think it's very important to go to someone whom you first trust. See, jewelry industry is overcrowded in India, and there are lots of players. So you need to kind of make up your mind. And for diamonds, these are the four things which you mentioned. Certification becomes important. We give our own certification, and it's absolutely valid. And the thing is, they need to be sure about where they are walking into. Do they trust the jeweler? If they do, they have to go to that particular place and ask for these. So the first step is where you walk into. Which store do you walk into? Where do you have this trust? That's the starting point.
Okay, all right. So, given what you said, so tell me something, when this is all sort of taken care of, given that there's so much happening in that space, the precious gems and jewelry space, we're seeing the lab-grown diamond industry shaping up. It's still in its nascent stages, presumably. But given that you deal with natural stones, as a brand or even as a designer, how are you viewing what's taking place there, and where do you see the future?
See, there is a lot of action in the lab grown space for sure. This is my personal opinion. I look at lab grown as a tech product, right? It is a result of a technology, and it's a great breakthrough, I would say, wherein we are able to grow diamonds. And what has taken millions of years to grow, we are able to grow in a lab. And but the thing is, it is what will happen to lab grown? It is a tech product. It's like wearables. The only thing what happens to any tech product is it gets depreciated over years. It gets devalued. It's not appreciating, it's depreciating. Whereas when you talk about a natural diamond, when you talk about the rarity and the exclusivity and all of that, these things only kind of appreciate. So there is this fundamental difference between a lab grown and a natural, though they may look the same. The other thing, and the secret about the consumer thinking, is when something is exclusive or something is rare, there is a lot more of desire and aspiration and wanting to buy that piece. The minute it gets totally democratized, it will be all over the place, and it is getting into it. So no harm. There are consumer segments. So people who will want to buy natural diamond will gravitate towards natural diamond. People who are okay with buying lab-grown diamond will also buy lab-grown diamond. And lab-grown is not necessarily the first thing. Same thing happened in pearls. We have cultured pearls today. For even we have CZs, we have various other stones which look like diamond, and people are okay wearing it. So point is, there is a place for everything in the industry. And when we are talking about lab grown, it is growing at a fast pace. It will actually speeden up the process of fashion is where I see lab grown diamond going more towards fashion than towards precious jewelry space, which is currently occupied by natural diamonds and will continue to do so because it will continue to be rare and difficult to attain.
Okay, so I'm curious to sort of take a peek inside your mind. Take us through sort of the process from when you conceptualize a line or a design to when it's actually manufactured. Tell us a little bit about how that entire chain sort of works.
Oh, great. I think that's a very interesting question because that part of the job, my job, is what I really love. Okay, so we start with who is our muse. In case of Zoya, we understand who this lady is, who is the Zoya woman. So first, there is a great deal of understanding. We believe she is free-spirited, she is independent, she is courageous, and she kind of, is on the journey in terms of connecting with her inner self. and she's all about authenticity. And when all of this happened, we believe that she is truly alive, right? So our process is whatever we create for her, it has to be meaningful to her. So we start with her. So every collection we create kind of celebrates some facet of hers. So what we when we let's talk about this current collection we have launched, which is Alive from Zoya. We wanted to celebrate her free spiritedness, and when we said if we have to do this, what is the inspiration we can gather? And that's when we came up with this whole thing of wildflower as an inspiration because it represents, free spiritedness, the way it grows, wherever it wants, it stays. So we look at our design as a metaphor for her. So we even coined a line for this collection when you say, wherever she stands, she blooms. So it has got this meaning of look at the wildflower. It can just grow anywhere and it can bloom anywhere. Similar is with her. Wherever she stands, she blooms and she spreads all that aura around her. That was the starting point of this thought process. Of course, it has to get manifested in form of a collection. So when we looked at wildflower, when we were building the design language of this collection, we looked at various life stages of the wildflower. And even the cut, which I spoke about, no, the bloom cut, which is a signature cut, is inspired by the spiral movement of the blossoming bud. And then we figured out that particular movement as a spiral movement and created a very, very special cut of the color stone, of some select color stones, which took us a lot of experimenting to reach the final stage. So once we did that, we had the stone ready, which would be the, centerpiece of every product. We had to, kind of look at what are the inspirations we take from the life journey of a wildflower, from seed to bloom, which kind of resonates with her life. When you first seed your dreams and aspirations, then you talk about the bloom, when it's like the dance of exuberance, and then you come to a state of transformation and change, which hits you when the wildflower is just all over the place in the wind, and then comes the rebirth. So these are the 4 stages, life stages we divided, which resonates with the life stage of our muse, and took inspirations and created some fabulous products, which kind of beautifully translate the thought process and the journey of a wildflower. So this was the design I would say process for it. But once we did it, we said, let's translate it. How do you translate it in a product? And this is when we chose a brilliant palette of gemstones, which are truly unique and which brings out this whole vibrancy and radical enthusiasm and all of that alive. So we chose a palette which represents our thought process of this, and hence then we created each of these. Putting it together is what we have created. So this is typically the journey wherein you understand your muse, get the inspiration, translate it physically, bring in some highlight points, and build the whole story around it. So at the end of it, we have every product with a narrative. So you pick up the product and you can keep talking about the story behind the product. So yeah, that's really the process. And we create wearable art, as I told you, and we are into building narrative and story for her rather than just creating a product. That's really the process.
Okay, so tell our viewers, how does one sort of care for their jewelry? What should be kept in mind after you purchase a piece of jewelry? How much does it depend on what that material is? And how do you sort of care for it?
Yeah, I think while we all purchase jewelry, it's important to care for it equally. First is, I think if we have different kinds of gemstones and all of that coming together, we should place it in separately and not all together to prevent any kind of scratches. These stones can be cared for by regular, just cleaning with warm water and, and just if you have used it very often, just clean it and then preserve it neatly. And these are precious. They don't require, diamond and color stones don't require that much of maintenance. As long as you keep them safe, keep them, even when you travel, you ensure that you pack it in such a way that, they are not touching each other so that it prevents any kind of scratches. Then they live for long.
All right. Thank you so much, Revathi. This was indeed an extremely interesting conversation.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being here. Thanks.
Thank you for watching NDTV Profit, and stay tuned.